Let's talk systems. And when I look at where I'm at with systems and processes, I've got to reference those that have come before, like in terms of the stuff that I have learnt from. And there's three names that come to mind in terms of looking at systems and processes. And those are Tim Francis, Garrett J. White, and Greg Hickman. And they have played various parts in this journey for me. And I knew that systems were important because I discovered pretty quickly that I was not very good at business. I was running a medical education company called Graduate Medicine, and I was struggling with time. So I thought it would be a really good idea to have fulfillment handled and bring on more doctors to produce the actual product, which was it was basically like Cliff's Notes for medicine. So I was like, great, I'll get them on board and they will help do the fulfillment, and that'll free me up to do sales and marketing because I knew that sales and marketing was critical. No cash, no business. So I was like, great, I'll get them to do that work so I can keep building the product and I'll come across to sales and marketing. And that'll free up my time. Now, if you've been down this journey, you will perhaps know what I experienced. What happened next? Well, a couple of things. One, my free time did not appear. I suddenly was managing people, and this took a lot more time than I was expecting. This was my first experience of finding out pretty quick that businesses require instructions to go out to people. Like you've got to tell them what to do. And so this actually took a lot more time. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I don't know. Well, I told you to do that. Was it done to standard? Was it done correctly? And my experience was that I had to stop this pretty quickly because the cash just like was pouring out one end. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And doctors are not cheap. Like to pay them for 1 hour, I believe we were at 140 to 165 bucks an hour. Like quite a lot of money to get people to work who are professionals. And it's like, whoa, okay, the cash was just pouring out and the time was not there. So I was like, okay, this has to stop. So pretty quickly scaled all that back. But I was scarred enough from this to go, I don't know what I'm doing here at all. And so in the beginnings, I was looking for answers and I came across the idea that systems and processes could be beneficial to run businesses. And a couple of things happened. Number one, so I ran into Tim Francis out of Profit Factory. I'm not sure where I came across him, but he was like, you know what? If you want to have systems, then I can show you how to do it. And he brought this beautiful concept of the way that he lays out processes, and it was divine. It was really amazing. It was like, okay, great. There's the title of the process, and then there's the purpose of the process, and then there's the steps of the process, and then there was checks. And so these things became very helpful because what you may find is that as you get better at processes, you don't need all the detailed instructions. Like if you've done something 17 times before, then there's a learning experience where that process becomes habit. And that we covered that yesterday in the Facebook Live yesterday. But the first time through, it's extremely helpful to have the instructions to go, oh wow, okay, and then there's that step, and then there's that step, and then there's that step. And so Tim brought through this idea that there's a way to write processes that is useful for the first time through, and it's useful for the 17th time through. And so extremely helpful. Go check him out, Profit Factory. Next up was structure, and Garrett J. White brought through to me these three big categories of business: production, profit, and protection. And really, the fourth one is power. But if you are struggling for power, like actually to have the capacity to do things, then I invite you to check out the link warriorcon3.com and go learn out how he has mastered the conversation of power. Like literally mastered. If you're in business and you're not in Warrior, then I'm like, what are you doing? How are you getting power to actually do the things that are required? But separate conversation from that was this idea of these three big areas of business: production, profit, and protection. And then each of those breaking down into four more areas. So production breaks down to marketing, sales, advertising, fulfillment, and then profit breaks down to processes, systems, optics, and people, and then protection breaks down into accounting, into legal, into cash, and there's one more that I've forgotten. Most of my time right now is not in protection. Like I have I do think it's very important, but for the stage of business that I'm in, a lot of that stuff just isn't relevant yet. Like it's almost like there's stages of business. And Garrett references this, and he's like, some people, if you're running a $20 million or $100 million business, then the protection game is critical. If you're trying to get to $1 million in revenue, like I am, then yeah, not so important. Better to work on marketing and fulfillment and sales and advertising and systems and processes and optics and people. So that structure of business was extraordinarily helpful. It was like, oh, wow. Okay, right. There's all of these areas that if I break it up and notice, well, I was shocked there was no place for meetings. Well, what about the meetings? I was like, oh, okay, well, hang on. Maybe that's not actually that important in terms of running a business. And so far that's been a true finding for me. I'm like, okay, wow. The requirement to document meetings is less. It's like, well, what's coming out of that meeting? What's the actions that need to be taken? What needs to be done from that meeting? And that's where that fits into the 12 categories. And then Greg Hickman out of Alta Agency. So I joined one of his early programs. I was using Infusionsoft at the time. And if you have been involved in Infusionsoft, you will realize pretty quickly that the way that you approach that is very important. If you're approaching that in a not systematic way, then it gets out of control really quickly. And it's like, what automations are going on here? What's happening inside of this? Like, don't get me wrong, Infusionsoft is amazing software. Their visual builder is awesome. Like, it's so helpful, but it's almost so powerful that it's really interesting to realize it's possible to create some things that like, why is that happening? Why did that happen? Oh, there's this hidden automation, not hidden, but it can be buried down. And so Greg showed me the way to set up tags and actually label things and have things labeled correctly so that they can be tracked. And this in itself, like combining those three, suddenly there was like this systematic approach. Now, not really suddenly. After about 6 to 8 weeks or even longer of intense work trying to put this all together so that I could have a system that works for myself, a system that can create systems, a system that can create assets, a system that can deploy assets. Like these systems are very powerful, very helpful in business. It's like having the instruction manual for a Lego set. It's like trying to build Lego without the instruction manual. Like you can build like the basic stuff pretty okay, but as soon as you try and go to advanced Lego, like you're trying to build a Technic set without the instructions, it's really difficult. And that's the experience, I think, for a lot of business owners. Like it's like, wow, why aren't we using the instructions? Why aren't we using the instructions? Like that is a question that is very interesting to me. And it's like, okay, if you don't use the instructions, then it means that you have to manage people. And managing people is not that much fun. It's like herding cats, It's like, wow, man, this is difficult. But if you just had the instruction manual, then it becomes a lot easier. If you're interested in that conversation, then head over to systemio.dev and check out the opt-in page there that will allow you to go and see some training around these ideas. Thanks for tuning in today. Look forward to seeing you on another Facebook Live very soon.